Welcome to the Wealth Builders Podcast. I'm Billy Epperhart, and on this show, you're going to hear from industry leaders in business, real estate, and investing. Our Wealth Builder coaches and myself are excited to teach you how to make sense of making money for making a difference. Okay, let's get started.
Well, hello and welcome to this week's Wealth Builders Podcast. I'm Karen Conrad, and on behalf of Billy and Becky Epperhart, we are so grateful that you tuned in and so happy to have you as part of the Wealth Builders family. One of our really popular episodes that we do is Q&A from our previous workshops on different topics. So we recently had a real estate workshop, the best yet, and I think we're going to continue to see these get even better. And we had a lot of people asking questions from our live stream and in person that we couldn't get to everything during the Q&A. So this is part 2 of the Q&A, and I'm so happy to have Frank Pulley and Bill Bronchek joining me today. Hi, guys.
How's it going?
Thank you so much for being a part of this. So we're going to jump right in and continue on some of the questions. And the first one that we are going to go over here is a question on some of the ratios that we were talking about, that Billy was talking about, to look for to find that right rental property. So the question is, does the price not to exceed 2 to 4 times median income pertain to building a home as well? And then the same question with the rentals. Frank, can you start us out just talking a little bit about that 2 to 4 times median income and what Billy was talking about here?
Well, ideally, that would be for possibly a rental or investment home, because I think with your own home, if you find something that's in an area that's appreciating and you're going to be in it for a long, long time, and you slightly overpay for it, but it's got everything you need, I think you're okay doing that. Whereas, for rental properties, it's really all about the numbers and making sure you stay within that range 2 to 4 times, along with some other facts and figures that we use for analysis, will help keep you safe and make sure you're not overpaying for that particular area.
Right.
Great. Bill, anything to add to that?
Yes. I think they meant it's a prosperity price. I think they meant purchase price, not to exceed 2 to 4 times median income. So if median income in a city is $50,000 a year, that's pretty low. That's below the national average. You want to be buying prices of properties between 100 and 200,000 for rentals. That's just a rule of thumb. And of course, there are exceptions to that, of course. In terms of building something new, if you're thinking about building something for a rental, that's not a good way to go, because most new builds are very high-end homes.
Yeah.
Very few builders are building 1,500, 2,000 square foot rental properties. They're just not building those anymore. It's not profitable to build something that small. So it wouldn't apply to building to new builds. It would apply to the rental market.
Yeah. And the word median also is a lot of times misconstrued. It's not the average. It means if it's $50,000, half of the income is above that and half is below that. It's not an average. So make sure you get those straight too.
Yeah, that's good. And also it's 2 to 4 times the median household income.
Right.
In an area. And I know that's really important too. Those are very different numbers at times. And I mean, I've just Googled that or just searched for that. Do you guys know, is there a website in particular people can go to, or just kind of do a general search?
Oh, there's so many websites. If you Google median income and median household income and then the name of the city, you'll have 15 websites that'll come up. They'll give you accurate information.
Okay, great.
It may vary a little bit, but they're going to put you in a ballpark.
That's great. One thing I noticed when I've been searching is that to put the year in 2023. Otherwise, you'll find like 2018 or 19 is SEO'd, right?
Right. That's correct.
Make sure you're in the right year. Okay, great. Bill, I'm going to start with you on this one. With the interest rates so high as they are, what recommendation would you give to new first-time home buyers?
Well, certainly you want to buy something you can afford with today's interest rates. I was just reading now that some banks are now going back to zero down loans And of course, the less you put down, the more you borrow, the bigger your payment. Not necessarily a bad thing, but you got to make sure you can afford the payment at today's interest rates. If you don't want to do that, then you can negotiate with a seller to do some seller financing. So for example, if the purchase price was $400,000, if you put 20% down, which is 80 grand, and borrowed 320 at today's rates, you may not be able to afford that. But what if you got a loan for 200 at today's rates and asked the seller to take a note and a second lien on the property for 120 at, let's say, 4% or 3% or no percent, just because you gave them the price they were asking for. And that will get your overall payment down.
Wow, that is a great suggestion. And just being a little creative on things and looking beyond the traditional. And I think in that case, too, it could be really attractive, Bill, because people, if they've got capital gains on it, or, they don't have a place to deploy that money right now, that could be like really a good option for them.
Sure.
All right, Frank, anything to add to that one?
Well, yeah. I mean, with our Wealth Builder coaching program, we can help you, design a creative solution to purchasing a property if it's there. And of course, we've always got Bill to rely on. And also on the Bill's site, there's a whole bunch of stuff on creative financing about everything you'd ever want to know. Videos, MP3s, state-specific forms, et cetera. So a great reason to get into the Wealth Builder coaching program.
That's great. Too, the interest rates feel really high to people because we just came out of record low interest rates. But if we were to look historically, where we're at with interest rates today is more normal than what we have seen. So I think that perspective is really helpful as well. Also, sometimes one of the things you could look at is getting into your property with an ARM, which is an adjustable rate mortgage. And I remember when I bought my first home, actually most of the homes that I've purchased personally until we were in these record low interest rates, I would do an ARM because first of all, I don't know how long I was going to be in the home. And so I could save a lot on interest rates. But also if you go into an ARM and you have at least a 3-year, maybe a 5-year, and you watch the movement in those caps that they only change once a year or maybe twice a year, you can watch the interest rates and the fixed rates, and you can pop out of that ARM into a fixed rate mortgage at the lowest interest rate. So I think that's something to take a look at too. I know the market right now is we've had an inverted yield curve for a period of time. I think it's more coming back to normal, but ask your lender about that. That could be a good option to get you into your property. All right, next question. This is, I've got a name here. This is from Rena, who was on our live stream. And she is saying, could you go over the 1% rent formula, please? Could you start that out for us, Frank?
Sure. I mean, it just basically means that a property ideally should rent for 1% or more of the purchase price per month. The simplistic view is a $100,000 property should rent for at least $1,000 per month. There's some other parameters we use too. Like for example, in a situation where you're doing over 20% down, you should be able to net. In other words, after everything is said and done, all expenses, $300 per house. And then slightly different nets for multifamily properties. But it really works. It really keeps you safe.
That's great. And Bill, we hear from people like, where do you find these? Everywhere they've looked, they haven't been able to find that 1%. Is there markets out there that people can find formulas?
Sure, there are markets, but depending on your long-term goals, it may not be what you want. So, for example, if you went into Detroit, you could buy properties, or some other markets like that. In the Midwest, you could buy properties for $200,000 that'll rent for $2,000 a month. The problem is, in 10 years, it might only be worth $250,000. So, if your goal is cash flow, that's fine. But if your goal is growth in the long term and not so much cash flow now, you might want to buy in an area where maybe it's 0.5%, but you can break even.
Yeah.
But the property will go up. I mean, if people who invest in California routinely lose money and then make it back up on appreciation because the wildly swinging prices on the coastal properties. So they might lose $50,000 a year for 5 years. That's a $250,000 loss, but then sell it for $1 million profit. Works okay.
Wow, that's a good point. We also talk about, Billy was mentioning that sometimes a strategy changes on that too, based on your tax liability.
Yeah.
So if someone has got a huge amount of taxes that they're paying to the government, maybe on their business or W-2 income, if they're able to get into real estate and get that designation in that point, because they've got a high tax bracket, which is a whole nother story. But taking a loss on that cash flow for that appreciation can actually help them in the short term on their taxes and in the long term. So lots of things, lots of ways to look at things here.
Yeah.
All right, Bill, I'm going to start with you on this one. We get a lot of questions, and this one came in from Rhonda on tiny homes. So her question is buying rural to build a tiny house village a good investment?
That's a tough one. I'd say it depends on the demand for them and the area that you're buying them. If you're going to use it as regular year-round rentals, that's probably the type of people who would live in a tiny home are probably close to homeless people. Because not many people want to live year-round in a tiny home. But for vacation, that's different. If you're going to rent it by the week or by the weekend, then it could be lucrative if it's in the right area.
Yeah. If you're going to build a village, though, I mean, you got to make sure people are going to stay there. You may have some development costs as electricity, may have to have plumbing, and there's other areas that will require you to pull the wheels off and make it stationary unless you at some point in time want to move it. So as Bill says, it's the lawyer's answer, right? It depends. Just depends on the circumstances.
It's almost what they're describing is almost like a cutesy mobile home park.
Yeah.
And financing on that too, I think, is a big key. To really think through how you're going to finance something.
I don't know too many banks financing the building of tiny homes. Although there's believe it or not, there's a tiny home convention that a friend of mine runs every year in Colorado. That's coming up I think in July, up in Loveland, Colorado, where they get like 10,000 people from all around the country. And that's all they talk about is tiny homes.
Wow. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
We've actually got some coaching clients too that are looking into that. And I think if it's done right, all the information, there's some real potential there. I always get concerned just, being around for a while of waves of things that are kind of popular,
right.
Just to make sure it's got that viability for long term.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to switch gears a bit here. And Bill, I'm going to start with you on this. There's a lot of questions. This is coming from June about gold, comparing that to real estate investing. And then there's a lot of discussion out there about the impending devaluation of the US dollar. Can you share some information on that with us?
Sure. Generally speaking, people convert to gold when interest rates are high, when the government's overspending and the value of the dollar is depleting, which it is right now. China's been buying up gold like crazy lately. And our government's been spending like crazy lately. Now, the thing about gold, it's more of a protection strategy. It's not like a house flip, you're going to speculate. Okay, if I buy gold at, X dollars an ounce, and if it goes up, I'll sell it, make a profit. That's not really the purpose of that. The purpose is when the value of the dollar is going down and you can't earn an interest rate high enough to beat inflation, then gold is a good place to park your money for a while. It's a good way to diversify your portfolio as well. But it's not going to produce income like a rental house would. And you don't get the tax write-off of a rental property either. So might it be a good idea to convert some of your portfolio into gold when we have a situation like we have now? It may not be a bad idea.
Wow. How about you, Frank?
I think Bill's spot on, man. This is his wheelhouse. So he knows a lot more about this than I do.
Yeah. And I think too, we're hearing that people are investing in hard assets. And so that's like you'll hear Warren Buffett is doing that. People are buying farmland. And so gold, real estate, farmland, those are all considered hard assets. And so is there, like, if you were to compare going into gold versus real estate, is there one direction or another you would go, Bill, if you couldn't do both?
I think it really depends on the person's goals and what they're trying to do. If you're older and you would just want to protect what you have, gold is a good thing. But if you're trying to grow your portfolio, obviously, real estate has many advantages on that side. And you forgot one other thing too, is guns. when things are bad, food, gold, land, guns.
And guns.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. That's awesome. All right. Thank you so much. It is interesting on guns is the percentage of people, like the increase of people owning guns. So it's kind of funny to say guns, but actually you've got some seriousness in there, don't you, Bill? All right. Very good. Let's switch back here a moment to real estate again. And this is from Dennis. And the question is, is it okay, or what are the pros and cons of being a real estate agent as a real estate investor, Bill?
Well, the advantage is that you belong to I'd say good old boys club, but most agents these days are women. But you get the idea, the insiders club. You'll get much more cooperation from a real estate agent when you're a real estate agent. And plus you have access to that exclusive multiple listing service that is not accessible by the general public. You can also gain a commission on a purchase. So if you're purchasing a property that is listed on the multiple listing, and you can represent your company as its agent and get part of the commission back from the listing agent. Now, I wouldn't get a real estate license because you think, well, I don't have a good knowledge of real estate investing, so that'll give me more knowledge. It won't. They do not teach you in real estate school how to invest. They teach you how to pass an exam.
Yeah.
And most real estate agents don't know how to invest in real estate. They know how to sell a house or fill out a contract. So, the bad side is regulation. When you're a real estate agent, you're presumed an expert, and you go to court on a bad deal, and the deck is stacked against you. The other thing is liability. Being an agent in a transaction always, is a potential blow up. You have to maintain continuing education requirements, licensing fees, malpractice insurance, and other related fees and time being a real estate agent.
Yeah. And some people just don't like real estate agents for some weird reason. So if you're trying to do business with them, they think you're trying to trick them, which is far from the truth. So, just make sure that you're aware of that. The other thing too is in most states, Bill, I believe that if you are a real estate agent, you have to use the state real estate forms, which can be a little imposing if you're trying to just buy a property between you and a seller, and you present them with a 16-page made of Greek contract versus a little simple 2 pages says I'm going to buy and I'm going to pay you this much, right?
Right. That's true.
That's good. And I think that there is benefit to it, but I really appreciate you guys talking about the risks as well. And I know, like, we've got our son is a real estate agent, and it's really helping us as we're getting going in a market. And it's very helpful to be able to research things quickly. And Frank, your wife Becky was a real estate agent, if I recall, for many years, correct?
But she was for 10 years. And I've been through all the stuff with real estate agents.
Yeah.
On a personal level.
Yeah. So it is nice it's an additional revenue stream and gets you a lot of information, but I really appreciate talking about the coverages as well and the positions that it can put you in. All right. We have time for one more question here. And this is from Jerry B. We get a lot of questions on this topic as well. Jerry B, they've got money in an IRA and they want to cash out to purchase a property. How can we make a transfer into our LLC with the lowest tax penalty possible? Now, this is their first investment property, but maybe you could share a little bit about how to leverage your IRA for investing as well.
Well, without getting hyper technical, the devil's in the details here, so to speak. Yes, you can buy real estate with your IRA money, but you have to jump through a few hoops to do it. The main point I want to make about this is when you invest with your IRA, you don't borrow the money out of the IRA, put it in your personal account and buy a property. That's a withdrawal. That's taxable. The IRA itself makes the investment. So the custodial account is buying the property instead of buying stock. You can't click to trade with real estate like a Fidelity, but you fill out some forms and you direct them to wire money to, let's say, a title or escrow company for a closing, and then title to the properties taken in the name of your IRA account. And then your tenants write checks to the IRA account, which are deposited with your custodial operation into your account. You can't spend that money as it goes. You can't touch it because that's a withdrawal that is taxable if you do until you reach retirement age of 59 and a half.
Great. And Frank, can you comment too, is there limitations when somebody uses their IRA, they move it into that self-directed IRA? Is there any limitations on financing in that situation?
Well, yeah, it's got to be Bill could fill in more of the details, but it's got to be what's called a non-recourse loan so that you can't get a credit card because that's, again, secured. If you get a loan that's secured, the recourse can only be against the property, not against the IRA itself. Is that right, Bill?
That's correct. And it can't have a personal guarantee by the individual IRA owner as well. So there are banks that do this, by the way. It's higher rates and lower loan to value. So you're probably looking at 60 to 65% loan to value, which means on a $100,000 property, your IRA would have to put up 35 to 40% of the purchase price, which is okay. It's better than buying all cash if you can leverage a little bit. But just understand that you can't go and get a regular, bank loan where you sign personally and there's recourse against you personally or the IRA individually if the loan is in default. They can only go after the property in foreclosure.
Yeah, that's really good to know.
And if you have an IRA through your work or whatever, you're probably stuck using that to a certain degree. And one thing I just ran across, I helped my sister self-direct her IRA. You're going to get some resistance from the stock people or whoever you've got your IRA. They're going to tell you that you're not making a good decision. They're going to drag their feet and getting you the money and getting a good IRA custodian to help you with the process.
Right.
And just making sure that you persevere is going to be really important.
Sure.
Yeah, that's good. And we've got a lot of coaching clients that we've helped walk through that process. And I believe that we have directed them to Mr. Bill Bronchek for some assistance.
Yeah.
Done a lot of that. I've been investing in my IRA for 20 years.
Yeah, that's a thing. The Wealth Builders team, as you can tell, just listening to this with these guys and Billy and Becky for any amount of time are very seasoned. We really have the best of the best. And so I just want to encourage you listening, if this is resonating with you, we're really seeing that God is putting real estate on the hearts of a lot of people, that really to take a look at our Wealth Builders real estate coaching program is an option, a very good option for you. It is an investment, but what we're hearing from our coaching team is it was amazing listening to the testimonies as the best decision they ever made. That was so sweet. And just really emotional about the decision because they've been able to get into real estate with the guidance of people. And we really care. We're not here just to have a coaching program. There's plenty that all of us could do, but we really care about your success. And so if you're interested, we provide a free 30-minute consultation. You can email us at info@wealthbuilders.org and just put in the subject line, request for a consultation. We do both real estate and business. And so we love it. We love to help you on this journey. And it's very gratifying to see people see their dreams become reality. So I just want to thank you, Bill and Frank, for being not only on this podcast, but just for being such amazing coaches for us and being a part of Wealth Builders. We really appreciate you both.
Thank you for your words. Yeah.
All right. Thank you for joining us today. We are so grateful to have you part of the Wealth Builders family. If you want to learn more about Billy and Becky Epperhart in Wealth Builders, go to wealthbuilders.org. I also want to remind you, we've got the business and nonprofit workshop that is coming up August 18th through the 20th. You don't want to miss it. It's an amazing weekend and we have limited seating. So if you are interested, get registered now. Go to wealthbuilders.org/events. So thank you so much again for joining us today. God bless you and make it a great rest of the day.
Thanks for listening to the Wealth Builders Podcast. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please rate and review the show. If you want to learn more about who we are, visit our website at wealthbuilders.org and check us out on Facebook. We'll see you next time.